Chapter 5. Tidy Up Your Mind, Strategies for Mental Health. In previous chapters, we've explored the nature of stress, identified personal triggers, and even started clearing space in our lives by getting rid of extra tasks and bad habits. Now it's time to focus on the control center of our stress, our mind. Imagine your mind is a computer. If it has too many unnecessary programs running, files are disorganized, and the system is infected with the viruses of negative thoughts, the whole system will slow down and malfunction. To restore its speed and efficiency, it needs a reboot and a thorough cleaning. That's exactly what we'll do in this chapter. Working with your mindset. Have you ever considered how much our thoughts affect our well-being? We often react not to the situation itself, but to how we interpret it. The same problem can cause completely opposite emotions in different people, from mild concern to a panic attack. The issue isn't the problem itself, but the thoughts racing through our heads. Our thoughts shape our perception of the world and determine our emotional responses. If we constantly think about the worst, expect failure, and criticize ourselves, it's no surprise that we feel anxious, depressed, and tired. Negative thoughts are like poisonous seeds that sprout in our consciousness, polluting our lives. The good news is that, unlike external circumstances we often can't control, our thoughts can be managed. We can learn to recognize negative thoughts and replace them with more positive ones. This doesn't mean you should always think happy thoughts and ignore problems. It's about learning to see a situation objectively, without excessive dramatization or self-criticism. We often react to stressful situations automatically, out of habit. It's as if a program is triggered inside us, and we produce a specific emotional reaction without even fully realizing what happened. To break this cycle, we need a mindful approach. The Stop, Think, Choose method is a simple but very effective tool that will help you pause between a stimulus and a reaction and choose a more mature and appropriate response. Step 1. Stop. As soon as you feel a wave of negative emotions, pause. Literally stop what you're doing. If you can, take a few deep breaths. This will help you distance yourself from the situation and lower the intensity of your emotional reaction. Don't try to suppress your feelings. Just give yourself time to breathe out. Step 2. Think. Ask yourself a few questions. What exactly happened? Try to describe the situation as objectively as possible, without emotional judgments. What thoughts are in my head right now? Write down your thoughts, even if they seem silly or irrational. What emotions am I feeling? Name your feelings: anger, fear, hurt, disappointment, and rate their intensity. Is my reaction appropriate for the situation? Am I overreacting? Are there other ways to look at what happened? Try to view the situation from the outside as if it were happening to a friend. What would you advise them? Step 3. Choose. Now that you have calmed down a bit and analyzed the situation, you can choose your reaction. You have at least a few options. Continue to react out of habit. But remember the consequences this usually leads to. Change your thought. Try to find a more realistic and positive interpretation of the situation. Take constructive action. If the problem is solvable, think about what you can do to fix it. Accept the situation. Sometimes we can't change what has happened. In this case, it's important to learn to accept reality and focus on what we can control, our reaction. By practicing this method regularly, you will gradually learn to intercept your automatic reactions and choose more mindful and effective behaviors. This takes time and effort, but the result is worth it. You will regain control over your emotions and your life. Cognitive distortions, the viruses in your mind. Often our negative thoughts are not based on facts, but on cognitive distortions, flawed ways of thinking that warp our perception of reality and lead to negative emotions. By recognizing these distortions, we can challenge them and replace them with more sound and realistic thoughts. Here are some of the most common cognitive distortions. Catastrophizing, exaggerating the negative consequences of a situation. For example, if I don't submit this report on time, I'll be fired, and I'll have no way to make a living. Personalization, taking events personally that have nothing to do with you. For example, my colleague didn't say hello today. They must be mad at me. Maybe they were just in a bad mood or preoccupied. Black and white thinking, or dichotomous thinking, seeing everything in extremes with no middle ground. For example, if I don't do this work perfectly, then I'm a total failure. Filtering, or selective attention to the negative, focusing on the negative aspects of a situation and ignoring the positive ones. For example, after a successful presentation, you fixate on one critical comment and completely ignore all the praise. Should statements, imposing rigid rules and expectations on yourself and others, beginning with words like, I should, I must, or they are obligated to. For example, I must always be perfect. How to combat these distortions? Become aware of them. Pay close attention to your thoughts, especially in stressful situations. Notice which thought patterns you are using. Write down your thoughts. When you put your thoughts on paper, they are easier to analyze. Question your thoughts. Challenge your negative thoughts by asking, what is this thought based on? Is there real evidence to support it, or is it just an assumption? Are there other ways to look at this situation? What would I say to a friend who was feeling the same way? What are the most likely consequences? How realistic are my catastrophic predictions? Replace negative thoughts with more realistic and positive ones. Find a more balanced interpretation of the situation. For example, instead of, I'm a total failure, tell yourself, I had some difficulties, but I can learn from this and try again. Working with your mindset is a continuous process. Don't get discouraged if negative thoughts return. The main thing is to learn to recognize them and consciously direct your attention toward healthier and more supportive beliefs. Gradually, you will notice how your emotional state changes and how stress loses its power over you. In the next chapter, we will talk about how to learn to set personal boundaries and say no without feeling guilty, which is another important step on the path to mental well-being.